Picture a wedding cake the size of a county courthouse, carved from 500,000 cubic feet of white marble, standing in a garden above the Atlantic. Now fill it with gold. Gold leaf on the ceilings, gold on the backs of chairs too fragile to sit on, gold on the dinner service that comes out for 8 people on a Tuesday. Add 70 rooms, a staff of 30, a French chef who weeps over sauces, a burglar-proof vault for the silver, and a marble staircase scrubbed every dawn by a girl on her knees before anyone who matters is awake to see it done. Then use the entire thing for 8 weeks a year and call it a cottage. That's Newport, Rhode Island, in the summer of 1896. The richest square mile in America. Balanced on the edge of an island the old Narragansett people are said to have called the Isle of Peace. A place where a hostess could spend more on one evening's cut flowers than her coachman earned in a decade, and where the woman who polished the ballroom floor at 6 in the morning was trained, drilled, corrected, to turn her face to the wall if the lady of the house happened to pass. A place where you could watch a 10-course dinner go upstairs on silver trays in the evening and eat your own supper, standing in a basement corridor by 9. We're going back there tonight. Not as guests rolling up the drive under the porte cochere. We're going in through the service entrance, down the basement passage, up the back stairs, all the way up, past the bedroom floors, to a little room under the slates where the heat gathers all day, and a girl keeps a copybook diary that could cost her the only job she has. 1 season, 1 person, June to September 1896. Everything she would have seen, smelled, carried, scrubbed, and survived. One honest word before we begin, because this channel keeps its accounts square. The house in tonight's story is built out of the real ones, out of marble house, finished in 1892 for $11 million, $7 million of it in marble alone. Out of the breakers, 70 rooms completed just last year, in 1895, after the old wooden house burned in 92. Out of all their marble neighbours along Bellevue Avenue and the Cliff Walk. The dates are real, the prices are real, the bathing hours, the wages, the rules about turning your face to the wall, real, taken from the records and letters and memoirs that Newport servants and their employers actually left behind. But the girl whose eyes I'm lending you tonight, the maid with the marbled copybook, she is a borrowed pair of eyes, stitched together from many real ones, because the women who did this work were almost never asked to sign their names to history. The rooms are real, the eyes are composite. Where the line between the two matters, I'll tell you. So, I make these history stories, and honestly, I still can't work out whether anyone truly sleeps to them, or whether you're all just weirdos who like hearing precisely how many footmen it takes to serve hothouse peaches to 8 bored millionaires in a 70-room house that stands locked and sheeted from October to June. Either way, subscribe if you feel like it. Get comfortable. Let the day set itself down somewhere out of reach. Here we go. The pencil is moving before the bells are. That's the whole trick of it. 5:15 in the morning, and you are already awake, which is nobody's fault but your own. And the pencil is already whispering across the page, which is your secret. And it has to stay your secret, because everything else you do in this house belongs to the house. The heat got up before either of you. It always does, under a slate roof in late June. The little room smells of warm slate and raw cedar boards, of last night's tallow smoke still sitting in the candlestick, of the sea coming through the one small dormer window, salt and weed and tide mud, and underneath it all, of 2 working women sleeping close in a room built for luggage. That last smell is partly you, There's no sense being delicate about it. You washed your face and neck last night in the basin you share. A full bath comes once a week if the laundry copper can spare the hot water, and this week it couldn't. On the roof above your head, close enough to touch if you stood on the bed, the gulls have started their morning argument. Their feet hit the slates like dropped spoons. Tack, tack, slide. And one slate up there is loose. You've learned its exact voice already. A flat clack, clack like a loose tooth every time a gull lands wrong or the wind gets under it. It sits directly over your pillow. You've mentioned it to the odd man twice. The odd man has 70 rooms of other people's problems below you, and a loose slate over a servant's bed is not so much low on his list as absent from it. You write faster. 15 minutes. That's the bargain you've made with yourself. From 5:15 to 5:30 before the first bell, the day belongs to you, and you spend it on yesterday. Yesterday, set down in pencil in a marbled copybook that cost 9 cents at a stationer's on Thames Street. In the small, careful hand the nuns beat into you in Kerry. What came up from the kitchen and what went back untouched. What the ladies wore. What Monsieur Alcide threw, and at whom. What the ocean did in the evening, because you had a window of 4 minutes on the back step while the kettles boiled, and the ocean turned the colour of a peach skin, and nobody else in that whole marble house stopped to look at it, and that seemed to you worth a line. Nobody knows about the copybook except Delia, who sleeps 3 feet away with her arm thrown over her eyes, and Delia only knows because you can't hide a pencil from a woman you share a wash basin with. A diary is not forbidden, exactly. Nothing about you is forbidden, exactly. But a servant who writes things down is a servant who notices, and a servant who notices is one bad morning away from being a servant who tells, and ladies have dismissed girls on suspicion of far less. No character reference, no notice. Steam a fare home out of your own savings. You know a girl it happened to in New York over a letter she never even wrote. So the copybook lives where nobody will lift, wrapped in your spare apron, flat under the newspaper lining at the bottom of your tin trunk, under the winter stockings you will not need until a season none of these people will spend with you. Never meant to be read. That's not a flourish. That's the design. Your name is Nora Cregan. You are 22 years old, and you were born on a hillside farm above Dingle Bay, County Kerry. That could fit. You have done this arithmetic. You do arithmetic the way other people bite their nails. The entire farm, house, byre, and both fields on this one house's lawn, with room left over for the tennis court. You came over at 17 4 years ago to an aunt in New York, went into service at 18 as a scullery girl, and you have climbed, if climbing is the word, to 3rd housemaid in the town household of Mrs. Ogden Van Ryn, which means that this summer you've been carried along with the rest of the furniture to Newport, the way the whole household is carried every June, packed, crated, freighted, and set down 2 lawns from Marble House with the ocean at the foot of the garden. $18 a month, and your room and your board. Remember that number. It's going to keep you company all summer, the way it keeps you company now in the dark before the bells, while somewhere below you, under painted ceilings, 8 people are asleep in a house that cost $11 million worth of neighbours to keep up with. 5:30. The first bell goes off down in the basement like the house clearing its throat, and even 3 floors up you feel it more than hear it. A shiver in the boards. Delia groans into the crook of her arm. The gulls go up off the slates all at once, and the loose one over your head gives its little clack, like applause from an audience of 1. You close the copybook on the pencil, wrap it, bury it, and shut the trunk lid on the only 15 minutes of the day with your name on them. Now you belong to the house. Dressing takes 6 minutes and happens mostly in the dark, because the candle is for emergencies and the dormer only catches the very top of the dawn. Print dress first. Pale grey cotton print for mornings, because mornings are dirty work and dark wool would show the dust you raise. Black comes later for afternoons, when you're supposed to look like nothing at all. Corset laced by feel. Stockings darned at both heels. The darns stacked on older darns like rings in a tree. Boots that were resoled in April and will want it again by October. $1.25, the cobbler on Lower Thames Street told your cousin, and he wasn't ashamed of himself either. Then the apron and then the cap. The cap is the piece that matters. A scrap of white muslin and a few pins worth maybe 8 cents altogether, and it is the whole architecture of your life. The cap says servant. Irish girls in New York have been known to quit good places rather than wear one, and the ladies write letters to each other about the insolence of it. You wear yours, you pin it straight. You have opinions about it that go into the copybook and nowhere else. Delia Quinn dresses beside you, hip-checking hip in the space between the beds, both of you performing the small morning surgery of hairpins without a proper mirror. Delia is 24 from the city of Cork and swears she'll die before she goes back, parlour-maid to your housemaid, which is one rung up and she never lets you forget it, and she has been 3 summers in Newport, which is 3 more than you, and she never lets you forget that either. She's also the reason you haven't put a foot wrong yet in this house, because she tells you the things nobody official tells you. Which back corridor floods at a spring tide, which footman counts the wine, what Mrs. Fairweather's silences mean, graded 1 to 5, and what to do at each grade. You were scratching in that book again, she says around a hairpin in her teeth. Before the bell, I heard the pencil. You heard gulls. I heard a pencil that sounded very like a gull. She sets the last pin. Write nothing about me, Nora Cregan, or write that I'm beautiful, one or the other. Down then, and down in this house is a journey. You go along the attic corridor past the doors of the other women, cook's room, the ladies' maids' rooms, kitchen maids to a bed, and through the door that shuts the servants' stare off from the world, and then down 4 flights of bare, narrow, honest wood. Boards worn pale down the middle like a path through a field, while 3 feet away on the other side of the wall the front staircase swims down through space, marble and bronze, wide enough for 6 abreast, lit by a skylight the size of your family's potato field. You will use that staircase this summer exactly as often as you will dine with the family. The 2 staircases run side by side the whole height of the house, and never once meet in public. And if you ever want to understand this civilization, and I mean this entire gilded civilization, that is the drawing you'd put in the school book. They named the whole age off a novel, by the way. Mark Twain wrote The Gilded Age back in 1873, meaning gold on the outside and something cheaper underneath. And the name stuck because names that are true stick. That's already an old joke by 1896. The people upstairs know perfectly well what the word means. They've decided to be flattered. The basement is awake, and when I say awake, I need you to understand what a basement in one of these houses actually is. This isn't a cellar with a furnace. This is a buried factory. A kitchen with a coal range 12 feet long, its firebox roaring since 5, a scullery already clattering, a larder, a game larder, a fish larder with its own ice room. The iceman's cart delivers 300 pounds a day at the area door, great cloudy blocks cut from Maine ponds last winter, sawdust still in their creases, a wine cellar behind an iron gate, a silver safe with a door like a bank's because there is more portable wealth in that little room than in most banks in Rhode Island, a servants' hall with one long deal table, a housekeeper's room, which is a court of law, a butler's pantry, which is a chapel, corridors painted the colour of oatmeal lit by borrowed light and gas jets, down which, this minute, a dozen people are already moving fast and quietly, because the first law of the buried factory is that the ceiling above it must never hear the machine that keeps it alive. Breakfast for the hall is at 6 sharp and lasts 20 minutes. Porridge, bread, butter, tea, the colour of harness leather. You eat it well below the salt. The table has a geography as strict as Bellevue Avenue's. Mr. Colquhoun, the butler, at the head when he sits at all, Mrs. Fairweather, the housekeeper, at his right, the French chef, Monsieur Alcide, attending in spirit only because he despises porridge, and all nations that eat it. Then the ladies' maids, the footmen in their undress livery, and down at the foot the housemaids and kitchen maids, and the scullery girl Annie, who is 14 and eats like the food might be repossessed. Mr. Colquhoun is English, from Westmoreland, and his name is spelled ridiculously and pronounced Cahoon, and he's been in service 31 years, and he can stop a footman's heart at 40 feet with one eyebrow. Mrs. Fairweather is from Providence, a widow, black silk in the afternoons, hair like forged iron, and she carries the keys of the house on a chatelaine at her waist. Cellars, closets, china room, silver safe, so that you hear her before you see her. A small cold music coming down the corridor, and the whole basement adjusts its posture to the sound the way grass adjusts to wind. She stops behind your chair this morning, which she does not do by accident, because she does nothing by accident. Cregan, the morning room, the small library, the marble hall, and the front stairs before 8. Miss Adele's bedroom when she rides out, and the china room at 11. I want a second pair of eyes on the Minton. Yes, Mrs. Fairweather, she's already moving on, keys ticking. Delia gives you a look across the table with her eyebrows only. The china room means trust. 11 weeks in this household, and the china room means you are being tried out for something. And the worst thing you could possibly do about it is look pleased. Now, the work. Because I want you to have this under your hands, not just in your head. Housemaid's work in 1896 is done kneeling mostly and done backwards, retreating out of each room so your cloth erases your own footprints from the pile of the carpet. You carry your housemaid's box like a carpenter carries his tools. Black lead for the grates, rouge and chamois for the brass, beeswax and turpentine for the wood, a bottle of vinegar, rags graded soft to rough like a little library of roughness. The marble hall takes 40 minutes on your knees with flannel and warm water and a spoonful of soda, working stone by stone, and the marble drinks the warmth out of the water in minutes and then starts on your hands. By 7, your knuckles are pink. By September, they'll be brick. Marble holds the cold, girl, your aunt said the first week. It holds it all summer, right through August, the way a church floor holds it. And kneeling on it every dawn, you learn what the phrase bone cold was invented to mean, in the most expensive month of the American year, in the most expensive town in America. And you must be finished and gone and invisible before the family stirs. That's the second law. The fires are laid, the grates blacked, the carpets swept, the 8,000 square feet of stone and parquet brought to a shine, and all of it must appear to have happened by itself, overnight, like frost. A good servant is a ghost. Mrs. Fairweather said that your first morning here, standing in the marble hall with her hands folded, and she did not say it unkindly, and that made it worse. A good servant is a ghost, Cregan. The house must look as if it loves them by itself. If the family does stir early, if Mr. Van Ryn comes down at 7 wanting the morning papers before his ride, if Miss Adele drifts through the hall in her habit with her gloves in one hand, you know what to do, because it was drilled into you in New York before anyone let you loose on a front room. You stand, you face the wall or the window, you become furniture, and you wait until the room is theirs again. You do not speak, you do not look. Some houses in this town require a maid who meets an employer face to face in a corridor to turn and walk the other way, as if she'd met weather. Yeah, that's normal. That's not one cruel household. That's the standard, printed in the manuals, praised in the ladies' magazines. The work must show everywhere and the worker nowhere. You're 22 years old and you spend part of every single morning being professionally non-existent, 3 feet from people whose bathwater you carried. And here's the thing you'd never guess from the manuals. The marble hall at 6:30 in the morning, empty, with the early light coming grey-gold through the skylight 3 stories up, and the whole vast, cold, shining silence of it to yourself. It's yours. For 40 kneeling minutes, the finest room on Bellevue Avenue belongs to a farmer's daughter from Dingle Bay, and to nobody else on earth. They own it. But they've never once seen it at its best hour, and you have never seen it otherwise. That goes in the copybook too. Tonight. In pencil. Under the stockings. At 11 you present yourself at the China Room, and the China Room is where this house stops pretending to be a home and admits to being a treasury. Shelves floor to ceiling, felt-lined, rail-fronted against the shudder of slammed doors, the Sèvres for the great dinners, the Minton dessert service, gold-encrusted, painted with fruit so real you could bruise it, a tea service that came across in 1830 in somebody's grandmother's trousseau and is worth more than the grandmother ever was, in the family's own accounting. Mrs. Fairweather unlocks it herself, always, and stands in the doorway while any hands but hers are inside it. Your work is to lift, turn, examine, and set down. Every piece before the season's first great dinner, you lift each plate the way you were taught. 2 hands, over the felt table, never over stone, and turn it to the window light, looking for the hairline, the flake, the crack that sleeps under a glaze until heat finds it. 40 minutes in the 3rd stack of teacups, you find one. A Minton cup, gilt handle, and along the foot of it a chip the size of a barley grain, old enough that the exposed clay has gone the grey of a tooth. Not your doing. Packed that way, shipped that way, shelved that way. And every servant alive knows the arithmetic of this exact moment, because it's the same arithmetic in every great house on 2 continents. The last hand to touch a broken thing owns the breaking of it. Breakages come out of wages in plenty of households. A cup from a service like this is not a cup, it's a month of you. Your thumb is over the chip right now. Nobody has seen. The stack goes back tomorrow into a dark cupboard for weeks. You could set it down, chip to the wall, and let August discover it in someone else's hands. You stand there holding a month of your wages in 2 fingers, listening to Mrs. Fairweather's keys shift behind you in the doorway. Mrs. Fairweather, this one's chipped at the foot. It's an old chip. The clay's gone dark in it. The keys come across the room. She takes the cup, tilts it to the light, and looks at the chip for a long time, and then at you for slightly longer, and you understand with your skin that the cup was not the thing being examined this morning. So it is. She sets it apart, opens her inventory book on the felt and writes, in a hand-like fence wire, 1 Minton teacup, chipped prior to inventory. Noted by N. Cregan, June 27th. Old chips tell no lies, she says, closing the book. New ones tell nothing else. Go to your dinner. You will think about that sentence on and off all summer. You will not know until the very end of the season what it was for. That night, in your 15 minutes. Because the day has a shape now, you see it. Bells and stone and stairs, and the copybook is where the shape gets written down. You page back to the beginning, to the first entry, dated the 16th of June, and you read your own account of how a household of 30 and a house's worth of treasure gets picked up off Fifth Avenue and thrown 200 miles up the coast. Because that's a thing I want you to see properly. The thing New York never sees because it happens in a week when everyone who'd write about it is already gone. The migration. It starts in the first days of June, in the city house with straw. Bales of it, and barrels, and felt, and shallow crates like coffins for pictures. The pictures come down off the walls and are sewn into Holland covers. The chandeliers are bagged like cheeses. The good carpets are beaten, peppered against moth, rolled around poles, and the silver moves the way a payroll moves, chests lined in felt, each fork in its stitched pocket, each chest weighed, listed, locked, and the keys on Mr. Colquhoun's own chain, and the chest never out of the sight of 2 men at once, between the strong room in New York and the safe in Newport. Mr. Colquhoun rode the baggage car himself, on a trunk in his travelling coat, 31 years of dignity sitting on a payroll in a rattling wooden car, because that is what butlers are actually for. The plate in some of these households runs past $100,000. Nobody insures a footman. Then the household itself. The family goes softly, a parlour car on the shoreline, or the boat. You went the way the freight and the servants go, which happens, this once, to be the most beautiful road in America, the Fall River Line, the night boat out of the North River Pier, the Priscilla, if you're lucky, and you were, launched just 2 years ago in 1894, and she is 440 feet of white steamboat, gilded saloons, electric light everywhere like strung pearls, a steam whistle that hits you in the breastbone. The swells take her too in the staterooms. The servants ride below with the trunks and the crated kitchen, and 40 other households worth of maids and valets. The whole servant population of Fifth Avenue afloat in the dark at once, and half of them Irish. So somewhere aft there was a melodeon going by 10 o'clock, and Delia knew every song. You slept 3 hours in a chair on your own tin trunk with the copybook inside it, and came up on deck at 4:30 to see Narragansett Bay open out silver ahead, gulls dropping off the davits, the water smelling of cold salt and coal smoke, and the sun coming up on Newport. Spires, masts, and along the cliffs to the south, a broken white line like surf that didn't move, which was not surf, which was the houses. And then before a single member of any family arrives, the houses have to be woken. 3 days this house took. Shutters unbolted room after room, and the smell of a great house shut since September rolling out at you. Cold stone, camphor, mouse, held breath. Furniture stripped of its shrouds, 70 rooms of sheets to the laundry, mattresses to the sun. Windows. You counted for the copybook. You count everything. 111 windows washed, and the marble halls scrubbed twice, and the gas fittings cleaned, and the range lit and fed until the kitchen walls forgot the winter, and Monsieur Alcide arriving on the 3rd morning like a general taking back a city, walking the larders with his hands behind his back, grieving loudly in 2 languages over the state of his copper. 8 weeks this is for, 10 at the outside. You wrote that down on the 16th of June in plain pencil, because plain pencil is the only way to say it. The greatest houses in America are used about as much per year as a good umbrella. And the money, give me a minute on the money, because this is a bedtime story, but I don't tell fairy tales. A season in one of these cottages, the servants, the stabling, the flowers, the dinners, the one great ball, runs $100,000 and up. Some households 2 and 3 times that. Your wages are $18 a month. Call the season, June through September, $72 of you. If you served this family for 1,000 years, a full 1,000, scrubbing that hall every morning from now until the year 2896, you would not yet have earned what this house's single grandest evening will cost. You did that sum on the back step in June with a pencil stub, and you sat with it a while, and the ocean went on folding itself over, and then the kettle bell rang and you went in. Not bitter. Write it honest. Not bitter most days. The food is better than the farms. The bed is dry, the wage is real, and every month $15 of it goes down to the steamship agent on Thames Street, who sells money orders to Ireland the way other shops sell bread, and lands in your mother's fist above Dingle Bay. And that is rent, and that is a heifer, and that is your youngest brother's boots. Half the Irish girls in this town are doing the same sum for the same cottages on the same hillsides at home. The marble pays for a lot of thatch. That's not a defence of anything. It's just the ledger, and you keep the ledger. But 8 people, 70 rooms, 8 weeks. You put the figures side by side in the copybook, and you don't add one word of opinion, because the figures laid side by side in a 9-cent book are the opinion. Never meant to be read, just meant to be true somewhere. July comes in on a fog, and the fog burns off by 8, and the season stops rehearsing. You feel it from the basement before you ever see it. The bells change, not the servants' bells, the front door bell, the carriage bell at the porte cochere, the little silver bells on the breakfast trays going up. Through the last week of June, the house was a machine being oiled. Now the machine is running, and it will not stop, not once, not for weather or grief or God, until the first week of September. And here is the thing you did not expect, the thing that went into the copybook in the first week of July, with 2 underlinings, which is as close as you come to shouting. The people upstairs, the people who own the freest hours in America, who could sleep till noon and answer to no bell ever rung, have handed their whole day over to a timetable stricter than a mill's. And when I say a timetable, I need you to understand what that means in Newport in 1896. This isn't a fashionable tendency. This is a railway schedule, printed in everybody's head, enforced by 500 watching windows. The gentlemen ride at 7. The bathing hour at Bailey's Beach is 11 to noon, and you no more swim outside it than you'd sing in church outside the hymn. Luncheon at 1:30, the carriage drive at 3, calls at 5, cards on the hall salver, corners turned down just so, dinner at 8, and after dinner the casino or a musicale or a ball that ends at 3 in the morning so that the whole thing can begin again at 7 with the horses. A lady of fashion changes her clothes for each station of that day. Riding habit, morning dress, bathing costume, luncheon dress, carriage dress, tea gown, dinner gown. 6 changes, sometimes 7 every single day, 90 days running. And every one of those changes is a pair of working hands. Somebody laces, somebody irons, somebody brushes, sponges, mends, carries, fetches, and puts away. The freedom of the people upstairs is a machine, and you are inside it. And from inside, I promise you, it does not look like freedom for anyone. You see Bailey's Beach for the first time on the 9th of July, because Miss Adele's bathing things went down in the trap with the wrong wrap, and somebody quick had to follow with the right one. And Mrs. Fairweather looked down the corridor and said, "Cregan, run!" So you ride down on the box beside the groom with a flannel bundle in your lap, along the whole southern sweep of Bellevue Avenue with the dust smoking up gold behind the wheels, and you are grateful all your life that the first time you saw the most exclusive beach in America, you had a reason to laugh ready in your hands, because it's a cove of grey shingle at the end of the avenue, narrow as a farm lane, with weed on the tide line and a row of wooden bathing boxes like hen houses, and the surf comes in over stones that would bruise a saint's feet. That's it. That's Bailey's. 3 miles north there is a great golden mile of sand called Easton's Beach, the town beach, the everybody beach, where your own cousins swim on Sundays with half the Fifth Ward, and it is, by any measure God keeps, 20 times the finer beach. Doesn't matter. Easton's is public, and Bailey's is not, and that is the entire science of it. A guard stands at the head of the path to turn away anyone whose face he doesn't know, and the faces he knows are perhaps 400, and those 400 have decided that this particular stony puddle is the only water in Rhode Island a gentleman may be seen wet in. The ladies go in at their hour in black stockings and flannel costumes with skirts, 10 pounds of wet wool the moment the first wave lands, and they bob solemnly inside the rope like washing on a line, and the ocean, the same ocean that stands off Dingle Bay taller than a church, behaves itself accordingly. Miss Adele does not bob. You hand her Maid the wrap, and you should go straight back with the trap, and you do, almost. But you stand for 1 minute on the path, because down at the rope Miss Adele has done the thing you will learn she does every morning of her life at this hour. She has swum past the line. 10 strokes, 12, clean as a knife, out to where the water goes from green to slate, while her mother's friends bob and disapprove. It is the only boundary in her entire regulated day that she is permitted to cross, and only because her father once said loudly at dinner that his daughter swims better than most of the fleet, and nobody contradicts her father. She comes back with the swell, stands up streaming, perfectly composed, and walks up the stones as if the disapproval were a kind of applause. Remember her doing that. It's the first true thing you know about her. The drive you see the same afternoon, and the drive you will see every afternoon after, because at 3 o'clock the whole avenue performs itself and the house stands right on the route. Understand what happens at 3. Every carriage in Newport, and there are hundreds, Victorias, Landaus, dog carts, 4 in hands, comes out onto Bellevue Avenue at the same hour and rolls down to the Ocean Drive and around and back, at a walk or a slow trot, 2 unbroken glittering lines passing each other for 3 hours. That's the whole event. Nobody's going anywhere. The point is the passing. The ladies sit under fringed parasols in their 4th dress of the day being seen, and the science of the beau, who inclines her head to whom, how deep, how warm, whether she sees you at all, is studied in those carriages the way generals study maps. A cut on the afternoon drive, a bow withheld in front of 200 witnesses, can finish a family's season. The horses are groomed to a shine your marble would envy. The harness buckles are polished with the same rouge you use on the fire irons. The coachmen sit like monuments in liveries thick as blankets in the July sun, forbidden to wipe their faces. From the third-floor windows, where you happen to be turning out a guest room, the two lines of carriages look like a machine too. A slow, bright, double-jointed machine for the manufacture of standing. And behind every single shining piece of it, hidden the way the back stairs are hidden, a groom is sweating and a stable boy is walking a lame horse, and a coachman's wife is sponging dust out of broadcloth by lamplight. The avenue, by the way, is named plainly enough. Bellevue, beautiful view, straight French. But here is the joke you put in the copybook. From the avenue itself you can barely see the water at all. The houses are in the way. The beautiful view was bought up, fenced, and built in front of, and now the view belongs to the drawing rooms, which are empty most of the day because everyone who owns the view is out on the avenue in a carriage, being seen not seeing it. 4 minutes on the back step while the kettles boil. The ocean doesn't know any of this is happening. That's the other thing that goes in the book. And twice that first full week of July, on errands, you pass the casino, and the casino deserves a minute here, because the casino is the whole town's upstairs parlour, and it was built out of spite. This is a true story with a date on it. In August of 1879, a rackety English cavalry captain named Candy, on a dare from his host James Gordon Bennett, the publisher of the New York Herald, a man rich enough to be genuinely dangerous when bored, rode a horse up the steps and straight into the Newport reading room, the stuffiest gentlemen's club on the island, clattering across the piazza among the wicker chairs. The club revoked the captain's guest privileges. Bennett took offence on his friend's behalf, and instead of apologising, he bought land directly across Bellevue Avenue and ordered up a rival establishment, bigger, brighter, with lawn tennis and music and scandal of scandals, ladies admitted. The casino opened the very next summer, 1880, shingled and turreted, with a clock tower and inner courts of grass so green they look enamelled, and it has been the centre of the Newport Day ever since. Every August, the National Lawn Tennis Championship of the United States is played on that grass. It has been since 1881, and the whole colony turns out in the galleries. Yeah, the National Championship. In this one seaside town, on the private lawn, a newspaper man built because a club was rude to his friend. That's Newport. A world where even the great public institutions began as somebody's expensive sulk. You know the casino the way you know everything in this town, by its service door. Mornings, the orchestra plays in the horseshoe court and the colony sits over coffee. And if an errand takes you along the avenue at that hour, you get the music for free through the shingled arch. A Strauss waltz, thinning out over the privet like something spilled and evaporating. You stand 2 seconds, maybe 3. A groom in the lane grins at you, his errand has a music stop in it too. Then you both walk on, quick, opposite ways. 2 ghosts in service aprons, each with 6 stolen bars of Vienna to get through the rest of the morning on. It's a strange economy, and you keep its books in pencil. They have the whole orchestra and stay for an hour. You have 6 bars and they last you longer. Then the heat comes. It comes in the middle of July, a week of it, and then another. The kind of heat that makes the newspapers print the temperature the way they print shipwrecks. And a marble house, you learn, is 2 houses in that weather. Downstairs, in the great rooms, the stone does what stone does in a church. It hoards the cool, holds it in its pale walls, so that a lady coming in off the broiling avenue at 4 o'clock walks into a hall like a spring house and says, "Every time, as if she has composed it fresh. How delicious! Upstairs, all the way upstairs, past the bedroom floors, through the door the guests never notice. The same sun that the marble is refusing has been standing on the slate since 5 in the morning, and the slates have been handing it straight down through 4 feet of air into your room. By 9 at night, the little room under the roof holds the day's whole heat like a fired kettle. By midnight, you can put your palm flat on the ceiling boards and feel yesterday still in them. The dormer window opens 8 inches. There is no other window. There is no draught, no cross breeze, no marble. The house that is a spring house for the people who own it is a bread oven for the people who run it, and both of those things are the same sun, sorted by the same rules that sort everything else. You learn the attic drills the way you learnt the stairs. Delia teaches you, because Delia has 3 Newport Julys in her and treats heat as a professional adversary like tarnish. Nightgowns damped at the washstand and put on wet. A wrung towel laid the length of the bed. The door propped and the dormer propped so the 8 inches of sea air can at least walk through the room, even if it won't run. Hair up off the neck, pillow turned every time you surface, and no candle. A candle in that room in July is another person's worth of heat. Some nights the women along the corridor give it up entirely and carry their bedding out the low door onto the roof gutter behind the parapet, where the slates have finally cooled, and lie there in a row under the stars like herring on a slab, with the whole dark sea sounding below, and the lit windows of somebody's ball 3 lawns away throwing gold up into the haze. It is strictly forbidden. It is perfectly usual. Mrs. Fairweather, who knows everything, has never once climbed the last stair on a hot night to know it officially. And the loose slate over your pillow in the heat wave becomes almost company. The night air off the water moves it just enough. Clack, and a long pause, and clack, like someone patient knocking at a door in no hurry to be let in. Delia swears she'll murder the odd man. You've stopped hearing it, or rather you've started hearing it the way you hear the sea. Proof, on the far side of sleep, that the world is still where you left it. Below stairs the heat sorts the household into its own weather systems. The laundry is the worst place in the house, and it is not close. 3 coppers going, flat irons ranked on the stove, starch steam you can lean on, and the laundresses working in it 12 hours with their forearms scalded pink, turning out the 6 changes a day snow that the season floats on. The kitchen is Monsieur Alcide's front, and in the 3rd week of July the range and the weather between them drive him to a pitch you privately record for posterity. The afternoon the mayonnaise breaks twice in the heat, and he stands in the area doorway with his whisk, addressing the sun itself, in French at length, with gestures, while the kitchen maid stands solemn as a jury, and the iceman's horse watches him over its blinkers. He catches you carrying vinegar past, seizes the bottle without a word, saves the 3rd mayonnaise by working the bowl inside a basin of cracked ice, and then, this is the part for the copybook, sends up to the attic corridor that night, by Annie, a pitcher of lemonade cold enough to sweat, with mint in it, for the women who sleep under the slates. He would deny it in 2 languages. The pitcher came up all the same. Annie is the one you watch in the heat, 14, scullery, on her feet at 5:30 with the range already roaring, and one white morning at the end of the 2nd hot week, she goes down, quietly, tidily, the way overworked girls faint, folding against the scullery doorpost with a stack of tin bowls in her arms and never dropping one. You get to her first, get her out to the area steps, get her head down and the air off the water into her, and Delia stands in the doorway to make the corridor stay empty for 2 minutes, which is a parlour maid spending real money. Because here is the arithmetic, Annie whispers before she's even properly back in her own eyes. Don't tell Mrs. Fairweather, please don't tell. A girl who faints is a girl who's delicate, and a girl who's delicate is a girl who can be replaced by Saturday, and her wages go to Fall River, to a mill family that needs every dollar of them worse than the mill needs the family. So you don't tell. You swap a heavy hour, the two of you, quietly for a week. You take the copper scouring in the scullery's worst heat, she takes your airy landings, and Mrs. Fairweather, passing the scullery on Thursday with her keys, looks at you 1/8 of a second longer than the work explains, and says nothing at all. The keys tick away down the corridor. You breathe out. In this house, you're learning. Mercy is a thing done silently or not at all. It's Delia who brings the other weather down from upstairs, because a parlour maid at her stations, tea in the drawing room, the door, the hall at calling hours, stands inside the family's talk the way a hall stand does, and like the hall stand she is presumed deaf. What she hears in the last weeks of July over the teacups is this: there is an English house party expected on the avenue in August, and in it an earl, unmarried, of good age, with a name Delia pronounces in 4 ways, and an income everyone quotes to the shilling, and the mothers of Bellevue Avenue have begun, in the politest language on earth, to jockey. Ever since a certain wedding in New York last November, you know the one, the whole country knows the one, a Vanderbilt daughter and an English duke, orange blossoms and a settlement with more noughts in it than your copybook has pages, and the bride's eyes, people who stood in the crowd say, red as raw wool under the veil. Ever since that wedding, a title in the room does to the avenue's mothers what a dropped match does to August grass. And Mrs. Van Ryn, says Delia, watching the fire take, has a daughter of exactly the right age who swims past ropes. You think about Miss Adele's 10 clean strokes out to the slate-coloured water, and her mother's friends bobbing disapproval inside theirs, and you write 1 line that night and shut the book on it. They are fitting her for something, and it is not a dress. The house's own campaign is settled that same week at dinner, and comes down the back stairs before the fish course is cleared, the way everything does. The Van Ryns will give a fete, not a ball in the ballroom. Everyone gives a ball in a ballroom, but a fête champêtre, a garden evening, the lawns and the terrace and the cliff, lanterns and an orchestra, and the sea itself as the 4th wall, on the last Thursday of August, when the yachts are in. The date is chosen the way admirals choose battle dates. It will close the season, or crown it, or both. Upstairs, this is a sentence in Mrs. Van Ryn's voice, and a note to a steward. Downstairs it lands like a mobilisation order, and Mr. Colquhoun and Mrs. Fairweather and Monsieur Alcide go into the housekeeper's room with the door shut for 2 hours, and when they come out the rest of your summer has been decided in every particular. But before the campaign you get your Sunday, and it's the Sunday I most want you to see. Every Sunday begins the same way for the Catholic half of the basement, which in this town means the Irish half, which means most of it. The early Mass at St. Mary's is at 6, and to be there and back before the family's breakfast, you go down the avenue in the grey of it, and this is the 1 hour of the week when Bellevue Avenue belongs to the servants. Truly, walk it at 5:30 on a Sunday morning in July, and you will meet nobody but your own kind. Maids in 2s and 3s, coachmen with their collars turned, kitchen girls still smelling faintly of last night's range, all flowing north along the millionaire's empty street in the sea fog, quiet as a tide toward the same bells. The great houses stand back behind their gates with every curtain drawn. not one lamp lit, and for that 1 hour the finest street in America is just a road the working people of Newport use to get to church. St. Mary's stands on Spring Street, brownstone, steady, with a steeple you can see from the harbour, and it is worth knowing what it is you're walking into. This is the oldest Catholic parish in Rhode Island, founded in 1828, when the Irish first came to this island in numbers, brought over as pick and shovel men to build Fort Adams out at the harbour mouth, the biggest coastal fort in the country. The church itself their sons built in the 40s and 50s, granite and brown stone raised by the same kind of hands that now black the grates on Bellevue Avenue. The people who dug this town's foundations sit in those pews, and their daughters, and you among them. And, because this channel likes to hand you one of these across the years, keep an eye on that particular church, because in 1953, 57 summers from the morning we're standing in, a young senator from Massachusetts is going to marry a Newport girl at that same altar, with the whole world's cameras outside on Spring Street, and for one Saturday, the two Newports, the marble one and the working one, will be looking at the same door. The bride will have summered on this island all her life. The church will not have moved an inch. Inside, at the 6 o'clock, it is caps and Sunday shawls and the smell of wet wool and candle wax, and the Latin goes over you like water over stones. The same words that went over you in Kerry. The same words going over your mother this same morning, 5 hours ahead of you across all that ocean. And that is the whole comfort of it, and it is not a small one. For 50 minutes nobody in that building is a third housemaid or a second laundress. Then the bells let you out into the risen light, and you walk back down the avenue fast, because the family's breakfast is at 9 on Sundays, and the tide of aprons is flowing south again. And by the time the first curtain twitches on Bellevue Avenue, every one of you has vanished back down your area steps, and the street is empty and gilded and looks, as always, as if it loves them by itself. But every other Sunday, every other one, that's the ration. The afternoon is yours from 3 until 10, and on the second Sunday of July, Delia being kept in by a dinner party, you go down the hill alone, to the 5th Ward, to your cousin Bridget's, and this is the walk I want you to have. You go down Spring Street with your wages worth of Sunday on you, the good shirtwaist, the straw hat with the new ribbon, 11 cents, Thames Street, and the town changes around you street by street like weather clearing. The lots narrow, the fences come down to hip height, and then to nothing. The houses step down from marble to brick to honest grey-shingled wood, 2 windows wide, and they turn to face each other across the street instead of turning their backs behind hedges, and washing appears in the side yards. Monday's wash going out early, sheets and shirts and small dresses semaphoring ordinary life. By the time you cross below Thames Street into the 5th Ward proper, the ward between the harbour and the Fort Road where the Irish of Newport have rooted themselves for 70 years, you can smell low tide and tar and coal smoke and somebody's chowder, and every shop window you pass has a name painted on it that could have come off a headstone in Kerry or Cork or Galway. Sullivan, Brennan, Shea, Mahoney. The agent's office where your $15 turns into your mother's rent every month is shuttered for Sunday, and you pat the shutter as you pass the way you'd pat a good cow. Bridget Dolan is your mother's sister's daughter, 31, 8 years off the boat, and she keeps a house on a lane off Carroll Avenue that would fit, all of it, inside the Van Ryn's China room. You have done this arithmetic too, and here is the fact that matters. It is a house, hers and her John's, bought and half paid, with a rose over the door doing well, and a kitchen that holds more actual life on a Sunday afternoon than 70 marble rooms hold in a season. You are through the door into steam and shouting before your hat is off. Bridget at the stove, her John Dolan, a coal wharf man with shoulders like a gable end and a silence he wears comfortably. In his shirt sleeves by the window with the Sunday paper, 4 children between 2 and 9 who fall on the penny candy in your pocket like gulls on the slates. The teapot goes on before any words do. That's the liturgy of this church. Tea strong enough to trot a mouse across, bread and butter and a seedy cake, and the news of home read out loud. Your letter from your mother arrived Thursday, passed hand to hand because a letter from Kerry belongs to everyone whose people are in Kerry. And the news of the ward, births and banns and who's after buying the lot on Extension Street, and underneath all of it, warm as the range, the one thing the marble house with all its money cannot make. A room where you are known, not trained, not graded, not invisible, known. Nora, Catty Cregan's girl who writes the beautiful hand and won't say boo about the grand house and eats like a bird, look at her. Bridget did her years on the avenue, 7 summers in service before John, finishing as second laundress in a house grander than yours. And so she asks her questions with a professional's precision and laughs in the right places, low, so the children miss the best of it. And late in the afternoon, out in the yard while she takes the dry wash off the line and you hold the basket, she gives you the sentence you will carry out of this summer, along with everything you learned from Mrs. Fairweather. You've been telling her about the season, the fete that's coming, the earl, the 6 changes of clothes, and Bridget snaps a pillow slip flat and looks past you, up the hill, to where the roofs of the cottages show over the trees with the evening sun on them, and she says, "They rent the view, girl, we keep the town." And then folding, 10 weeks they're here, we're here the year round. Come October, that avenue is ours to walk and their windows are boards, and the priest and the coal man and the school go on the same as ever. So mind you don't get to thinking their Newport is Newport. A shirt of John's, folded in thirds with 2 moves. Their Newport is a tent. It only looks like stone. You walk back up the hill at 9:30 with that in your pocket and the harbour going lilac behind you, past the lit windows of the ward, small windows near the street, open to the evening, a fiddle going in one and an argument in another and a baby against a shoulder in a third, every one of them offering you its whole interior life as you pass, nothing to hide and no one to hide it from, and then up street by street, as the fences rise and the hedges thicken and the windows retreat and go gold and far away behind their lawns, until the only sounds are your own heels and the sea, and you turn in at the service gate of a house with 111 windows, not one of which anyone has ever leaned out of to call a child into supper. 2 Newports, you write that night, in pencil, in the 15 minutes. One of them is rented, the other one is kept, and then, because the heat has broken a little and the loose slate is clacking its slow clack over your head, and Delia is already asleep with her over her eyes. I was at home today. It is not the same as being home. It is the nearest thing this island sells, and it costs 11 cents an afternoon, and it is the best bargain in Newport. Never meant to be read. But Bridget's sentence deserved paper, and now it has it. August, then. August is when Newport tightens like a rope taking strain. The fleet comes first. In the second week, the New York Yacht Club's squadron stands in from its summer cruise and anchors off the town, schooners and big single stickers and steam yachts with brass enough to blind you, launches stitching back and forth to the landing all day, and the harbour turns into a Second Avenue. The same parade, conducted in white hulls instead of carriages. The talk in the servants' hall runs a week on yachts, and once, exactly once, on the great business of last September, when the white sloop Defender saw off the English Challenger and kept the cup on this side of the water, and the Englishman's Earl owner went home calling it foul, and everyone here called it sour. And Mr. Colquhoun, who is England itself down to his boot heels, permitted himself one sentence on the matter. A gentleman loses in silence, and that was the end of the cup at that table. You wrote the sentence down. It seemed to you it covered a great deal more than boat racing. Then tennis week, the third week of August, when the national championship comes to the casino grass, and the whole colony packs the galleries under the clock tower. You get it in slivers, the way you get everything. An errand down the avenue on the Tuesday, the crowd sound coming over the shingled wall in surges, a patter of clapping like rain starting, then the held hush, then the little moan for a point lost. And through the archway for 4 seconds, a glimpse of white flannels lunging on impossible green. Mr. Wren of Boston holds the championship this year too, Delia reports, who has it from a footman who has half a week's wages riding on it. You note the name, and note also that you have now watched the National Tennis Championship of the United States for 4 seconds through a hole in a wall, and that this still puts you ahead of nearly everyone in America. And behind all of it, the whole month long, the house is arming for the fete, and the fete is where every thread of this summer is going to pull tight at once, so watch how it's done. A garden evening for 400 is not an entertainment. It is a supply campaign, and the house fights it on lists. Mrs. Fairweather's lists breed lists. The gilt chairs come down from a Providence firm by steamer, 400 of them, in straw, and stand ranked in the coach house, like a legislature waiting to convene. The marquee men come with their wagon and their mauls and raise a canvas supper room on the west lawn in a day, and the striped canvas smells of every circus you never went to. An awning runs from the terrace doors so that no silk shall ever meet the night dew. Extra plate comes up from the New York strong room by rail, 2 men riding with it as always, and for a week the pantry rings to the sound of Mr. Colquhoun's silver drill. Every piece out, every piece counted, breathed on, buffed, counted again, entered twice. It's at the silver table, one evening of that week, that the butler gives you his sentence. You've been lent to the pantry for the polishing, trusted hands being scarcer than hands, and you're working rouge into the pierced rim of a fruit stand while Mr. Colquhoun holds a ladle up to the gas jet, reading the bowl of it the way a doctor reads an eye. 31 years of service are in the turn of his wrist. Without lowering the ladle, he says, in that voice off the Westmoreland fells, that 30 years of London house is never quite sanded down. You know what the difference is, Cregan, between silver and marble? You do not. Silver remembers being touched. Every hand that ever polished this is in the shine of it. That's what a shine is. Marble, and he sets the ladle down in its baize slot as gently as a sleeping child, shines by forgetting. Nothing shows in marble but marble. He looks at you once, direct, which from him is nearly an embrace. Be silver, girl, whatever house you serve in. Be silver. And then, because the moment has gone on a full second past regulation, that stand wants more rouge at the foot. The lanterns arrive on the Friday before the fete, and the lanterns deserve their own line in the ledger. 3 crates from a Boston importer, off the steamer, and inside, in tissue, in nested dozens, paper lanterns from Japan and China by the gross. globes of red and coral and gold, pleated like something between a fruit and a moon, each one folding flat as a fan and opening into a full round nothing weight the size of your two hands, with its little wire cradle for the candle. 12 gross! That's 1,728 lanterns, and you know because you unpacked and counted 400 of them yourself, kneeling in the coach house in a sea of tissue paper, and the copybook got the number that night along with this. Each one is painted, quick strokes, a bird or a branch or a character you can't read, by some hand on the absolute other side of the earth that will never know what lawn its work burned one night above the Atlantic. For the week of the fete, the house takes on hired help. A dozen extra women for the laundry and pantry, and a night crew of men for the grounds. And this is how the 5th ward comes up the hill to you. Bridget Dolan on the pantry list. A laundress of her experience commands fate wages, $2 the week's work, and she takes them cheerfully, the roses being ahead of the mortgage, and her John on the grounds crew stringing lantern wire. So for 1 week your two Newports stand in the same basement, and you get Bridget's raised eyebrow across the pantry at each fresh absurdity, the eyebrow alone worth the summer. And in the evenings John Dolan is up a ladder in the elms with wire and pliers, unhurried, exact, running the lines the lanterns will ride, and the head gardener who trusts nobody, trusts him by Wednesday. The wire web grows over the lawns each dusk, along the drive, down the pleached walk, out to the cliff, doubled around the marquee, looped clean along the terrace rail. Unlit, in daylight, it looks like nothing. Cobweb and clothesline. You've seen enough of this town by now to know that this is exactly how everything here looks from the working side. String, tissue, tallow, lists. The magic is assembled from haberdashery. The gold is in the lighting of it. And in that same last week upstairs, you are given the other thing. The small scene you will keep longest of all of them. It is Wednesday, the day before the fete. You are turning out Miss Adele's bedroom in the family's riding hour, which is the drill. Her room's done while she's out, the ghost rule, the house loving them by itself, and you are laying the fire fresh when the door opens behind you. And it is her, back early, still in her habit, gloves in one hand. You're up and facing the window with your eyes on the middle distance before you've even decided to move. 11 years of training in 11 weeks. You hear her stop. And instead of crossing to her dressing room and letting the room become hers again, she stands there, and then she says to your back, "You needn't do that. You stay as you are, because there is no drill for this." "What's your name?" she says. "You've been in this house all summer. You found the chipped cup," Fairweather told Mother. "Mother was pleased for a week, and I don't know your name." "Cregan, miss. Nora." "Nora?" She says it once as if checking the fit. In the window glass you can see her reflection lay its gloves on the bed, and you realise you're watching her in the same glass she must be watching you in. Two reflections being careful of each other. "Where's home, Nora?" "County Kerry, miss. Above Dingle Bay." "The Atlantic," she says. "The same water as that," with her chin at the window, at the flat blue line beyond the lawn. "I swim past the ropes, you know. They all think it's high spirits." A small pause, and the next thing she says as simply as a person stating their height. "It's the only 10 minutes of the day nobody arranges for me. They're bringing an earl to the fete tomorrow. I'm to wear the blue and be found by the fountain at 10. It's all," and you hear the glove seams strain in her fingers, "arranged. There is nothing a third housemaid may say to any of that, and you both know it, and she hasn't said it to hear an answer. She has said it because you are the one person on this island guaranteed not to repeat it. Sealed not by loyalty, but by the whole stone weight of the rules. And because, you understand suddenly, clear as a bell going, she envies you the back stairs. You, Nora Cregan, $18 a month, are the freer woman in this room by exactly the width of one copybook and one green Thursday sea. "The fire's laid, miss," you say to the window. "Thank you, Nora," she says, and you go, and neither of you has broken a single rule that either of you could name, and the door clicks, and that night the copybook gets 4 lines. They are lighting the whole garden tomorrow so that a man can find her by a fountain at 10. She swims past the ropes every morning and comes back every morning. I used to think the ropes were to keep the sea out. They are to keep the swimmers in. And then it is Thursday, the last Thursday of August, and the day itself begins. It begins at 4:30, an hour before the first bell, and it begins in the dark, and nobody has to wake you because nobody in the attic has properly slept. You hear the range being fed below while the gulls are still quiet. By 5, the basement corridors are full and moving, and Mrs. Fairweather stands at the junction by the housekeeper's room with her lists like a pilot at a harbour mouth, and the whole day goes through her hands. I could give you that day hour by hour, and there are nights I would, but tonight I'll give it to you the way you got it, as freight. The flowers come at 6. A wagon, then another wagon, then a third. Hothouse roses in their hundreds packed in wet moss, orchids in travelling cases like small coffins with breathing holes, and smilax, miles of smilax, the green stuff that will be wound down every rail and rope in sight, until the terrace balustrade is a hedge and the marquee poles are trees. 2 florists' men and 4 maids do nothing else for 9 hours. The ice comes at 7, double order, £600, and goes into the fish larder in a white fog of its own breath. The Minton comes up from the china room, piece by counted piece, 400 dessert plates riding the back stairs in padded baskets like a dynasty of eggs, and 1 cup stays behind on the shelf, apart, chipped to the light, honestly entered in its book. And the kitchen by 8 o'clock is a place you put your head into once and back out of like a stoker checking a firebox. Monsieur Alcide has 3 extra cooks under him and a menu that ends in spun sugar, and he is everywhere at once, tasting, damning, blessing, his voice riding over the roar of the range in 2 languages, consommé to be gelid, aspics setting on ice by the squadron, squab by the gross, lobsters coming in off a cart straight from the point still fighting the basket, and at the cold table a man from New York doing nothing all day, but building baskets out of ice and sugar for the peaches to lie in. Yeah, sugar baskets, that's a trade. A man can be famous inside 1 square mile of America for exactly that, and this is the square mile. All afternoon the wire waits over the lawns. At 4 the candle crews go out with the crates. Every groom, every hired man, John Dolan steady up his ladder, and fit 1,728 candles into 1,728 paper moons, and clip each moon to its wire with its little brass swivel, and leave them hanging shut like buds, and the lawn all evening is a strange orchard, paper fruit in dead ranks going grey as the light goes. To 7:30, with the family dressing and the orchestra, 30 men, brought from New York on the afternoon boat, now feeding in relays in the servants' hall with their coats on the chair backs. With all of that poised, the order comes out through Mr. Colquhoun, 1 word, and the crews go down the lines with their tapers, and you are on the terrace steps with a tray of glasses when it happens. So you see it happen, and I want you to see it too. They light fast, 2 men to a line, a taper touch through the paper throat of each lantern. moving away from each other down the wires. So the light doesn't arrive all at once. It runs. It runs along the dark in both directions, bud after bud opening gold, coral, red. The painted birds and branches coming alive on each globe as the flame fills it. Lines of light racing away down the drive, down the pleached walk, out along the cliff, doubling round the marquee, looping the terrace, until the whole web that was string and tissue an hour ago is burning soft in the blue dusk. 1,000 and more little moons swaying in one slow sea breath together, and under them the lawns turn to gold water, and beyond them, at the foot of the garden, the true sea, gone almost black, holding a broken stripe of every colour the lanterns are. The tray is in your 2 hands. You do not set it down, but you stand there, and the breath goes out of you the way it went out of you at 5 in the morning on the deck of the Priscilla, and beside you a footman with 6 years' training whispers, entirely to himself, "Ah, hell," in a voice like church. And then the harbour answers, because the fleet has been waiting for this. It's been arranged between the stewards for a week, and yacht by yacht the squadron lights up in the outer dark, lanterns to the mastheads, strings of them stem to stern, one big steam yacht breaking out electric bulbs like a constellation come to anchor, until the water between the fleet and the lawn is one long trembling avenue of light, and for a moment the 2 Newports... No. For a moment there is only one Newport, and it is made of fire, and the people who paid for it and the people who rigged it are all standing still in it together at the exact same time, and that girl is the thing a fate is actually for. Then the first carriage rolls under the porte cochere, and everyone who is invisible goes back to being invisible, and the machine takes it from there. You spend the night of the season's grandest evening the way the whole basement spends it. In the lit dark at the edges, in transit, carrying. Your station is the service path, the gravel line that runs behind the shrubbery from the pantry door to the marquee, the hidden artery, and you go up and down it perhaps 60 times between 9 and 2, trays out, wreckage back, and so the fete comes to you in slices through the leaves, and honestly, the slices are better than the whole. 400 people on gold chairs and gold grass. The orchestra on the terrace playing waltzes with the sea for a bass line. Champagne going up at a rate Mr. Colquhoun tracks in his head to the bottle. Dresses that each cost 3 of you a year moving under the lanterns like lit water. Diamonds at 50 throats catching red from the paper moons. The supper in the marquee at midnight. Aspics shivering. The sugar baskets dying beautifully in the heat of 400 candles. And old Mrs. Whoever she is from the house with the bronze doors asleep in her chair, by 12:30, upright, jewelled, magnificent gone. And nobody wakes her because she is worth $40 million and may sleep where she likes. At 10, between trays, through the leaves, the fountain, the blue dress. Miss Adele stationed on the rim of light exactly where she was ordered to be found, and the Earl found her, a long, sandy, perfectly pleasant-looking man who laughs at the right times, and her mother 12 feet off with her back turned, reading every syllable of it out of the corner of her fan. Miss Adele is doing it beautifully. You can see it done from 30 feet in the dark. The tilted head, the smile at the right depth, the whole trained surface, and you can see, because you now know her stroke, that she has swum out past this particular rope entirely, and is somewhere off in the slate-coloured water, and that not one soul on that bright lawn but you can tell. She looks once toward the sea, in the middle of it, just once, half a second over his shoulder, then back to the smile. You pick up your tray. It is none of it your business, and you will remember it for 60 years. The bad minute comes at 1:45, and it comes on your path, which is why you're the one in it. The night has been stirring all evening. The sea breath swinging the lanterns a little more each hour, and now a real gust comes off the water, one hard shoulder of wind, and the whole burning web heels over at once like rigging and rights itself. And somewhere behind you on the pleached walk you hear a sound that isn't music, a soft whump. You turn and there it is, a lantern at the end of a line as gutted and caught, the paper moon gone in one breath to a ball of flame swinging 6 inches under the dry August privet, and the flame already climbing its own wire toward the next moon on the line. And this end of the walk is empty dark. All the crews down at the marquee, 400 people and an orchestra between the fire and any one official who could reach it in time. There is no decision. You are simply there, tray down in the gravel, glasses ringing, and the wet cloths off the tray, the folded napkins that ride under the glasses soaked with slopped champagne. Thank God for sloppy footmen. Up and over the burning globe, both hands smothering it against its wire, and the fire dies with a hiss and a stink of scorched paper and sugar, and hot wax runs across the back of your right hand like a lash, and you do not let go. And above your head the privet stands unburnt with one brown breath of smoke going up through it into the dark. Then a shape arrives, at a run with a lantern pole and a bucket, and it's John Dolan, who saw the flare from his post at the cliff line, and between you, in 40 silent seconds, the dead lantern is off the wire. The two beside it pinched out cold, the wire dipped, the walk dark and safe and smelling of nothing worse than smoke that could have been a snuffed candles. John looks at the privet, and up the walk toward the terrace, where 400 of the richest people in the Western world are applauding a waltz they will remember all their lives as perfect. And he looks at your wax-striped hand and he says, at coal wharf volume, which is just above a breath, "That's a burn. Butter's no good to it. Cold water, and keep it out of herself sight till Monday." And then, bending for your tray and handing it up to you steady as a shelf, "There was no fire, Nora. There never is, up here." And he goes back into the dark along the wire, checking each moon as he passes, and the orchestra swells to the turn, and the lanterns sway all down the lines, gold and coral and red, absolutely beautiful, absolutely safe. And the fate goes on above the ashes of the only thing that ever threatened it, which fits in your apron pocket, and which nobody upstairs will ever, ever know about. That's the sentence you will not write down until you are on the boat. The paper moons were the loveliest thing I ever saw, and I am the one who knows they burn. At midnight there had been fireworks from a barge below the cliff. I'm giving them to you out of order because that's how you got them, in glimpses between trays, gold chrysanthemums opening over the black water, and the fleet's lights trembling under them, and the boom arriving late off the face of the sea like the island clearing its throat. And by 2 the music has gone soft and the lines of carriages are rolling up the drive, and by 3 it is over. The last wheels die away down Bellevue Avenue. The orchestra packs. Somebody douses the lantern lines section by section, and the garden goes back into the dark it came out of, and the sea, which has been lying there the whole time, is suddenly loud again, the way it always is when the money stops talking. You are sent up at 4. The clearing will run to noon, but the morning rooms must still be done by 8. The season does not grant even the morning after a fete. And Mrs. Fairweather goes down her line of swaying women choosing who sleeps, and her eye crosses your scorched hand. which you've kept behind your apron for 3 hours, and stops on it, 1/8 of a second the way it stopped on you in the scullery in July. She says nothing at all. She says nothing at all in the particular way she has that is a paragraph. And at the foot of the attic stair in the grey, Monsieur Alcide is standing over a tray like a sentry, and on the tray is bouillon in kitchen cups for the last shift up, and beside the cups, wrapped in a good napkin, a broken sugar basket, smashed past service, perfect, past argument. And he says to the 6 of you, furious, with the whole night in his face, eat, you are not marble either. And you climb the 4 flights on bouillon and broken sugar, and Delia is already down and breathing, and the dawn is coming grey gold through the dormer's 8 inches, and over your pillow the loose slate says its slow clack, clack, still here, still here. And your last thought before sleep takes you like a wave taking a swimmer is that in 3 hours you will be kneeling in the marble hall again, and that nobody who danced tonight will ever once wonder who put the garden out. The copybook stays shut that night. Some days are too full to fit in 15 minutes. It gets 3 words on Friday, in a hand shaking slightly from the scrubbing. We made it. And you let those 3 words mean every single thing they mean. After the fete, the season doesn't end. It exhales. You can hear it happen, that first week of September, all up and down the avenue. The colony has a saying that the season dies on the 1st of September and takes 3 weeks over the funeral. And from the basement the funeral is a sound. Fewer wheels on the drives, fewer bells, the casino orchestra playing to half a courtyard, and one by one, behind the hedges, the sounds of houses being put to sleep, carpets being beaten one last time, shutters being trial swung on hinges that won't move again till June. The fleet went first. One morning after the Fleet Week, the harbour was simply empty. The whole white squadron gone off to the southward like a decision, and the water looked wider all day. The hotels along the cliff empty out. The special trains start running the other way, and the awnings come down. That's the sign you learn to read. When a house's striped summer awnings come off their frames, that family is inside a fortnight of gone. The equinox gale arrives in the 2nd week. 2 days of it. A real Atlantic blow driven straight onto this coast, and the gale settles a small account of ours. All that first night the attic is like the inside of a drum. The sea below the garden gone from breathing to shouting. Rain riding the slates in sheets, the whole roof working and ticking over your head, and the loose slate over your pillow, your summer-long companion, your applauding audience of 1, claps itself to pieces at about 2 in the morning. One crack like a dropped plate, a scrabbling slide, gone, and then rain, straight in through the gap, cold as charity, on your face on your own pillow in the finest town in America. You and Delia haul the bed 3 feet south, set the basin on the pillow to catch the drip, and lie the rest of the night listening to it fill, plink at first, then plunk, the pitch dropping as the water rises, which Delia, face down, voice muffled in the bolster, calls the only music this house has paid for all summer that the servants got to keep. In the morning the odd man is finally on the roof with a ladder and a slater's bag, a hole being a budget line in a way a servant's sleep never was, and by noon there's new slate nailed home over your head, tight as a tooth filled. And here is the thing you don't expect, the thing that goes in the copybook that night. You miss it. The little clack is gone, the room is silent under the wind, and the silence has a hole in it exactly the shape of the sound. All summer it said still here over your sleep, and now the roof is perfect and says nothing, and you lie there listening to a slate not moving, and understand that you had, without noticing, made a friend of a flaw. There's a lesson in that somewhere, you write, and I'm too tired to dig it out. And a person who has done a Newport season knows better than to go looking for lessons above her station. Good night, slate. And then the house itself begins to die its yearly death. And because you helped wake it in June, they set you to helping put it down in September. And I'll tell you the truth, it is the tenderest work you do all year. It runs backward, the whole June liturgy in reverse, room by room, starting with the rooms that are already done living. The ballroom first, of course. The ballroom's whole life this year was 5 hours of one Thursday. The flowers go out of the house. The pictures come down and are sewn back into their holland shrouds, faces to the cloth, like people drawing up their sheets. The chandeliers are bagged. You hold the ladder while the second footman does the bagging, and a chandelier being bagged in an empty ballroom at 4 in the afternoon, the crystal giving one last shiver of light as the muslin comes down over it, is one of the quietly saddest sights this civilization has invented, and you'd defend that opinion in court. The good carpets are peppered, rolled on their poles, and stood in corners like felled trees. The clocks are let run down, one by one, and nobody winds them, and the house's heartbeat retreats room by room in front of you, until whole wings hold no time at all, and over everything the sheets, wagon loads of holland covers up from the laundry, and every chair, every sofa, every gilt and marble and silk thing in 70 rooms sheeted white, till the great rooms stand full of still white shapes in the sea light. Furniture become congregation, waiting out a winter-long service in a church with no priest. You walk back through the finished floors at dusk with the shutters barred, and your candle the only moving light, and 8,000 square feet of shrouded silence watch as you go, and you are not afraid exactly. But you walk at a good pace. The silver goes the way it came. Chests, felt, 2 men. Mr. Colquhoun in his travelling coat riding the baggage car with $100,000, and his 31 years, dignity on a payroll southbound. The Minton goes down into its cupboards in the china room, 400 pieces counted twice, and the chipped cup goes into the middle of its stack, chipped to the wall, exactly where it lives, and it's there, in the china room, on the second to last afternoon, with the inventory book open on the felt and the keys quiet for once on their chain, that Mrs. Fairweather squares her account with you. You'll be wondering, she says, not looking up from the book, about the cup. You have learned enough by now to say nothing in the most attentive possible way. That chip is 9 years old. It is entered in my private inventory in the autumn of 1887, and every June it goes back on the shelf, and every June the newest pair of hands I mean to try is sent in to find it. She rules a line under the season, precise as a surgeon. Most find it. That's nothing. Any eyes can find a chip. The examination is the 10 seconds after. Some girls put it back chipped to the wall and say nothing, and they stay third housemaids, or they don't stay at all, because a girl who will hide a small broken thing will hide a large one the day it matters. Some girls come to me trembling and confess to a chip they never made. That's honesty with no spine in it, and it polishes no better. She closes the book and looks at you, and her face does the nearest thing it does to warmth, which is a kind of barometric easing you could miss if you hadn't studied her all summer. You held a month of your wages in your hand, and you called it what it was out loud to my face, with the door shut and nobody to make you. Old chips tell no lies, Cregan. Neither, it turns out, do you. That is the entire examination. Everything else in service is dusting. And then she offers you the winter. Because here is a thing most people never think about, and you didn't either until this moment. When the family and the 30 servants and the silver and the season all go south next week, the house does not get locked and left. A marble cottage keeps a skeleton crew the year round. A caretaker, the odd man, a watchman, and 1 or 2 proven women to keep the damp turned out of a 70-room house that will not see its owners for 9 months. Quiet wages, a quiet town, the attic to yourself, coal in the stove, the 5th Ward 20 minutes walk, and the whole grey winter ocean at the foot of a garden that belongs, from October to June, to whoever is standing in it. Mrs. Fairweather lays it out flat. No salesmanship. And then the other door beside it. Or you go back with the household on Thursday's boat, and you go back as second housemaid, which is $2 more a month, and Delia's rank. Because the woman above you is leaving to be married, and Mrs. Fairweather does not intend to advertise. Sleep on it, she says, taking up the keys. Tell me at breakfast. And you do sleep on it, or rather you lie on it, in the silent room under the sound new slate, doing what you always do, arithmetic. The winter house means Newport kept, Bridget's kitchen on Sundays all year, the season's tent folded, and the true town yours, the ocean daily. It means quiet enough to fill 3 copybooks, but the $2, $24 more a year, that's boots for 2 brothers and the whole spring rent above Dingle Bay. And the promotion is a rung, and rungs for a woman in service do not wait on the ladder while she winters by the sea, and Delia is on Thursday's boat, and your mother did not put you on a ship at 17 to keep marble dry. You are, whatever else this summer has made you, still the girl who keeps the ledger. In the morning, at 6, over porridge, you tell Mrs. Fairweather, New York, and thank her for both doors. She nods once, unsurprised. You have the feeling she has watched this sum done across this table for 30 years, and could call the answer from the handwriting, and says only, then you'll take the china room in the townhouse as part of your work. I'll tell Mr. Colquhoun. Which is how you learn that in the language of housekeepers a set of keys is a kiss on the forehead. Delia, informed of your promotion to her own rank, is silent for a full 3 seconds, which for Delia is a period of mourning, and then says, God help me, I've made you and now you're Maid, and takes your arm the whole length of the basement corridor, and does not let go of it even to point with. The family goes on the Tuesday, softly, the way they came. A parlour car, a mountain of trunks that went ahead on Monday, the carriage twice to the station, and on the Tuesday morning, early, before any of it, you see Miss Adele for the last time, and it happens the only place it could. At the foot of the garden, at the sea wall, at 7 o'clock, when you're sent down the lawn to bring up the last of the awning cushions before the dew is off them, and she's standing at the wall in her travelling clothes, hair done for the train, looking at the water. No bathing at Bailey's this morning. The bathing hours died with August. She has gone down to look at it instead, the way you look at a thing you're leaving. You gather cushions and mean to be a ghost about it, but she hears the gravel and turns, and this time neither of you performs the drill. The season is over, the audience gone, and there is nobody on this whole emptying cliff but the 2 of you and the gulls. Nora, she says, your name, straight off, kept all these weeks like something in a locket. We go at 10. And then, looking back at the water, in the flat conversational voice she keeps for the things that matter, the Earl sailed on Saturday, from New York, unengaged. A pause you could set a teacup in. Mother is desolate. She has told everyone we found him charming and young men must be young men. Another pause and the September light moving on the water, and then, quietly, with the smallest end of a smile getting away from her. I swam past the ropes on the last morning of the bathing, straight out, farther than ever, and I came back when I was ready, and not 1 minute before. Yes, miss, you say, and it is the entire speech, and it is a stuff, because she isn't looking for an answer. She is filing a report with the one person on the island who kept her secret all summer without ever being asked to. She looks at you a moment, at the cushions in your arms, at your right hand, where the wax burn has gone a shiny pink she is far too well brought up to ask about, and far too sharp not to have noticed. And she says, "Thank you for the fires, Nora. They were laid beautifully all summer. I noticed." Which is, when you do the arithmetic on it later, the only time in 4 months that anyone upstairs has said out loud that the house did not in fact love them by itself. Then she walks up the lawn to her train and her winter and whatever they fit her for next, straight-backed, unhurried, past the sheeted windows, and you stand at the sea wall with your arms full of cushions and watch the water she swam in, and you find you are wishing her open ocean all her life, and no ropes, and you put that wish in the copybook that night word for word, because a wish written down in pencil is at least somewhere. Your last half-Sunday goes where every half-Sunday has gone. Down the hill. The ward in late September is a different, better country. The season's work over, the men home at decent hours, the light gone long and amber down the lanes, and Bridget's kitchen in full session, and this time there is a parting in it. Tea and the seedy cake, and John silent and comfortable by the window with his paper, nodding at your burned hand as at a colleague's tool mark, and the children who have decided across one summer that you are a permanent institution, extracting a promise of June the way bailiffs extract rent. And at the door, in the yard, in the blue evening, Bridget holds you at arm's length by both shoulders and does the last of her offices. You'll be back when the tent goes up. And listen to me, Nora Cregan. The grip tightening, the voice dropping to the register the ward keeps for blessings and threats, which are often the same sentence. Keep writing in your wee book. Don't you dare stop. The ones upstairs, they'll have their names in the papers and their faces in the paint, and no one will ever know what any of it cost or who carried it up the stairs, unless some girl with a pencil was there and wrote it true. So write it true, and come home to us in June. And she kisses you like your mother would, hard on the cheekbone, and shoves you off down the lane while it's still only nearly dark, because sentiment in the Fifth Ward is a thing you do briskly or not at all. The last morning, the Thursday, you are up at 5:15 out of pure habit, because the body keeps bells the mind has dismissed, and there is nothing to write yet. The boat will be for writing, so you go down instead, down the 4 dark flights, and you do a thing you will never tell anyone but the copybook. You let yourself into the marble hall, alone, and you stand in the middle of it in the grey gold before sunrise, on the stone you have scrubbed some 90 mornings, under the skylight, among the sheeted shapes, in the hugest silence money ever built, and you say goodbye to it, to the room, because they own it, and they have never once seen it, not like this, not at its one true hour, and you do not own 1 stone of it, and it has been yours all summer by the oldest claim there is, which is care. Kneeling cold need, invisible care. The light comes up through the skylight the way it did your first morning, grey to gold, stone by stone across the floor, and you stand there and let it arrive, and then you hear the basement waking under you, and you go down and eat your last porridge below the salt, and you do not look back at the hall on your way out because some doors you close by not turning around. And Newport, as the wagons take you and the trunks down to the wharf that afternoon, is emptying like a theatre. That's the true sight of it, the one the summer people never see because they are always part of the going. Bellevue Avenue in late September, house after house behind its hedges with the awnings stripped and the shutters barred and the drives raked smooth over their own wheel marks. Gardeners burning the first leaves somewhere unseen, the smoke standing straight up in the still air. The casino courtyard swept and vacant, the enamelled grass going shaggy at the edges now that perfection has no audience. A single carriage on the whole avenue where hundreds rolled at 3 o'clock a month ago, and the horses' hooves suddenly loud, the way footsteps are loud in an empty church, the tent coming down pole by pole, and below Thames Street in the ward, wash on the lines and children loose from school, and the year-round town standing easy on its own ground, waiting to have its island back. Bridget's Newport rising out of the water as the other one sinks. The boat is the Priscilla again. You check her name off the wharf piling like greeting an acquaintance. And the leaving is the arriving run backward. The trunks swung aboard in nets, the servant population of the summer colony funneling up the lower gangway with its baskets and its bandboxes while the last of the swells go up the upper one. The whistle going through your breastbone at the first dark, the town swinging away all lit and small. Somewhere below Thames Street, one particular kitchen window is burning yellow among the rest, and you pick it out or decide you have, which on a night sea is the same thing. Then the point light, then the fort, then the open bay, and Newport goes down into the dark astern the way the season goes down into the year, all at once and gently and giving no sign that it was ever anything but sea. Delia finds you at the rail an hour out, 2 cups of tea from the lower saloon in her hands, and stands beside you in the wind without a word for a while, which from Delia is a sonnet. Then, well, you're Maid. I'm mourned, and there's a melodeon aft already going at the Rose of Tralee like it owed him money. She hands you your cup. She looks at you sideways, the lights of some other steamer crossing far off behind her head. Did you ever write that I'm beautiful? And because you are 22 and Maid and going home to winter with $2 a month more and a burn gone shiny on your writing hand, you tell her the truth. I wrote it in June, the 2nd week. It's in pencil. In pencil, says Delia, outraged, delighted, turning back to the sea. She puts me down in pencil, the cheek of her. Sure everything true is in pencil. And she drinks her tea, and that sentence goes into the book too, the very last thing that summer says before the summer is over, because Delia Quinn is the wisest woman on the eastern seaboard and picks the lock of things by accident going past. You finish the diary on deck at first light in Long Island Sound. You'd meant to sleep, and did. 3 hours in the chair between Delia and the trunks, and then the body's bells rang 5:15, and that was that. So you come up into the wind with the copybook and the pencil stub, 1.5 inches of it left, the summer measured in cedar shavings, and you find a place at the rail out of the weather, and while the Sound goes from black to pewter to the colour of a knife, and the gulls pick up the ship's wake like day labour, you write the last entry. It is not long. The book is nearly full and the pencil is nearly gone, and those 2 arithmetics have decided the length of it between them, which is right, because everything else this summer was decided by arithmetic too. You write the date, the 24th of September, 1896, aboard the Priscilla, at sea. You write what the season was, In the plain ledger hand the nuns beat into you. 101 days, 70 rooms opened and closed like an eye, 1 cup honestly reported, 1 garden lit with 1,728 paper moons, less 1 which burned and which is nobody's business but ours. $15 a month home to carry, $90 the season, 1 heifer, 3 pairs of boots, the spring rent, 1 slate mended, 1 friend made a rank mate, 1 lady wished open water, and at the bottom, alone, the line you've been carrying up and down the back stairs all summer without ever quite setting it down, and you set it down now, with the last good inch of the pencil, while the sun comes up out of the sea off the stern rail and finds the page. They will remember the marble. Someone had to remember the mornings. Then the book is full, and you close it, and you wrap it in the spare apron, and you put it at the bottom of the tin trunk under the newspaper lining beneath the winter stockings, which you will need now. The season none of them spend with you is the season you're sailing into, and you snap the hasps down, and Delia is calling you to come and see the city standing up out of the haze ahead. And that is where we let go of her hand, because the diary is finished, and the diary was the door we came in by. The trunk and the book in it sail on without us. Now, you remember the bargain we struck at the beginning of the night, because this channel keeps its account square. The rooms are real, and the eyes are composite. Nora Cregan is a borrowed pair of eyes, stitched from many real ones, and so I will not stand here and invent her a future. I won't tell you whom she married or what became of her, because nobody knows the futures of the women she was stitched from either. That is the entire point of her. The record kept their wages and lost their names. Whoever they each were, one by one, the history that hired them closed over them like the water of the bay, and that is the truest ending I can honestly give. But the copybooks are another matter, and here I can put real daylight on the table. Because women like her did write. Not many, and not much, and almost never for anyone. A 9-cent book, a pencil, 15 minutes before the bells. Letters home by the thousand, of which a few hundred survive in Irish farmhouse drawers to this day. Household diaries, kitchen notebooks, lines kept between wash lists, and decades later, this part is documented. This is the part you can go and touch. When the historians finally got around to asking me what the Gilded Age had actually been like for the people who carried it up the back stairs, it was exactly these scraps they went begging for. In the 1970s and 80s, in Newport itself, researchers sat down with tape recorders in front of very old women in Fifth Ward parlours, women who'd been kitchen maids and laundresses and parlour maids in the marble houses before the First War, and asked them to remember out loud, and they did. The attic heat under the slates, the bathing hours, the face turned to the wall, the half Sundays, the lantern nights, every bit of it, 70 and 80 years kept fresh in the only archive that never burns, which is the memory of a woman who was there and was never once asked until now. Those recordings exist. Those memoirs exist. Everything I have shown you tonight stands on them, and the copybooks that survived the way such things always survive, not as history. Nobody thought they were history, but as belongings, wrapped in an apron at the bottom of a tin trunk carried from place to place for 40 years, up into a married life, out to a triple-decker in Fall River, or a frame house in Providence, or a farm bought at long last on the far side of the very ocean they crossed. And then one winter afternoon, far along in another century, a granddaughter is sent up to the attic for something else entirely. That is always how it goes. Nobody ever finds these things on purpose. and opens a trunk and lifts a layer of yellowed newspaper with a president on it 3 wars gone, and finds under the moth-shot stockings a small marbled book with a pencil ghost of a hand in it, small and careful, the kind of hand nuns made. And she sits down on the attic floor in her coat, meaning to look at one page, and comes down 2 hours later, cold through, holding the book with both hands like something that might still spill, saying, "Did anyone know Nana was in Newport? Did anyone ever ask her a single thing about any of this? And that is the ending, the only one I'll swear to, and notice, I want you to notice, because you've been kneeling on marble all night and you've earned it. Notice that it is a warm one, not a burning, a keeping. The book that was never meant to be read is read at last, but late and gently, and by exactly the right person. Not by the housekeeper, not by the lady, not by anyone with the power to cost her the place, but by her own blood, in a warm kitchen, 70 years too late for any harm ever to come of it, and just in time for the one thing she'd never asked of it, which is to be believed. Every figure checked and found honest, every sentence in pencil, and everything true in pencil, as a wise woman said one night on a dark boat. The mornings remembered, the ledger kept and finally countersigned, and the houses are the joke history saved for last, and it is a good one, so take it with you towards sleep. The tent folded. That world had perhaps 20 seasons left in it, and the ones who lived it longest saw it end. The income tax came, and the wars came, and the servants' halls emptied out into factory and offices and never came back, and one by one the marble cottages went dark, white elephants on a cold cliff, too big to live in and too proud to sell. And then, one by one, they were rescued, by the town, in the end, in its way. The Preservation Society took the breakers in under its wing in 1948, and opened those 70 rooms to the public. Marble House followed in 1963, and today, this is present tense, this is this afternoon. The marble cottages of Bellevue Avenue are museums, and something on the order of 1 million visitors a year walk through them. And here is the part I promised you. The tours go down the back stairs now. They do. The basements, the kitchens, the butler's pantry, the servants' dining hall, the bells on their coiled springs, the attic corridors under the slates, restored, interpreted, lit. Guides stand in the buried factory all day telling crowd after crowd exactly what a housemaid's morning was, what she was paid, where she slept, how the ice came in and the ashes went out. The 2 staircases that ran side by side the whole height of the house and never once met in public, they meet now, every day, in the same ticket. The family had the house 8 weeks a year. The ghosts got it forever, and the strangers file through the marble hall in their summer shoes, and they look up at the skylight and the gold, and then, more of them every year, this is simply true, they ask the guide where the servants slept, and the whole tour turns, and goes to find the back stairs, and climbs toward the little rooms under the roof, where the story was true all along. She scrubbed that hall 90 mornings and was trained to be invisible in it. Stand in it today and she is the only person the visitors want to hear about. Some accounts take a century to settle. This one settled. So come back up the 4 flights with me one last time, in the dark, quietly, past the sleeping doors. It's late June again if you want it to be, or late September, or any night of the 101. The attic doesn't much care, and neither by now do you. The little room under the slates, the dormer open its 8 inches, and the sea coming through it, salt and weed and tide, the oldest smell there is. Delia breathing slow 3 feet away with her arm across her eyes. The tin trunk shut at the foot of the bed with everything that matters wrapped in an apron at the bottom of it. Safe, kept, written, and over the pillow, if you listened, and you can, tonight, because tonight the roof is allowed to be whichever roof you loved. The small, slow voice of a loose slate in the night air off the water. Clack, and a long pause, and clack, still here, still here. The day is over, truly over. The hall is scrubbed and the grates are blacked and the fires are laid for a morning that is not your problem yet. The copybook has its 15 minutes in it, the pencil is back in the fold of the apron, and there is not one thing left anywhere in the 70 rooms below you that anyone can ask of you before the bell. This hour belongs to nobody. Not to the house, not to the season, not to the lists. Which means, by the oldest arithmetic in this story, it belongs to you. And you are tired. Be honest now, the way the book is honest. You're tired in the knees and the knuckles, tired in the small of the back, tired in the particular deep way of people who have carried a long day up a great many stairs. Good. That is not a debt tonight. That is the coin you paid, and this bed, this dark, this sea at the window, is what it bought, and the purchase is complete, and nobody can reopen the account before morning. And all over the island the others are already down. Think of them once, the whole watch of them, the way you'd count lamps before locking up. Delia, 3 feet away, gone under in mid-sentence as always. Whatever she was going to say kept safe till morning, when it will have improved. Annie, 2 floors worth of attic away in another great house of this story or this street, 14 and flat out, her boots side by side like 2 obedient animals, growing an inch this summer on stolen sleep and other people's leavings. Mrs. Fairweather, keys hung by the bed at last, the whole house's locks resting in one small cold constellation on the bedpost, and even she unlocked now, even she. Mr. Colquhoun, 31 years of service folded over a chair back, sleeping the way he stands, correctly. Monsieur Alcide, dreaming in 2 languages of a mayonnaise that cannot break. And down the hill, below Thames Street, in the small wooden house with the rose over the door, Bridget and her John and the 4 children breathing in their rooms near the street with the windows open to the harbour. The whole 5th Ward dark and easy on its own ground, keeping the town in its sleep the way it keeps the town awake. Every one of them worked today. Every one of them is done now. The whole island, both Newports, the rented one and the kept one, riding the same night at the same anchor, and the same sea folding at the foot of everything. You are warm enough, fed enough, safe enough. Say it the way she would have said it, in plain pencil, no flourish. Warm enough, fed enough, safe enough. You have a dry bed, and a friend 3 feet away and a door that shuts, and that is more than most of the world had in 1896, and more than plenty have tonight, and it is enough. It is enough. It is enough. Tomorrow there will be bells. Tomorrow there will be stairs and stone and other people's beautiful things to carry carefully. Tomorrow there will be lists, and the lists will have your name on them. But that's tomorrow. And tomorrow is on the far side of the whole night, a long way off across the dark, and it cannot cross that water any faster than the light can, and the light is hours and hours away. Right now there is only this, the weight of the blanket, the pillow going slowly warm under your cheek, the gulls settled, the house below you full of sheeted furniture and stopped clocks, 70 rooms of silence stacked under your bed like deep water under a boat, holding you up. The sea doing its one endless patient chore at the foot of the garden, folding and unfolding and folding again, The only worker on this whole cliff that never rings for anything, never mends, never polishes, never finishes, and never once in 10,000 years has minded. Listen to it. That is the same sea that stood off Dingle Bay taller than a church. The same sea the lanterns painted for one night in colours. The same sea a girl in a blue dress swam out into, passed the ropes, and came back from when she was ready, and not 1 minute before. It has outlasted every season that was ever going to be the season, every list, every bell, every marble house, and every empire that built one, and it will outlast the rest of them too, and it is not troubled about it. And tonight, just for these few minutes at the edge of sleep, you are permitted to be exactly as untroubled as the sea. Seasons will keep coming. That's the last thing, and then I'll let you go. Summers will keep arriving at their appointed hour and emptying out again in September, the way they have since long before there was anyone to rent the view. The tents of every kind will keep going up and looking like stone and folding, and people will still rise early to make things ready for other people, still keep small books that are nobody's business, still send money home and count what things cost, and steal 4 minutes on a back step to watch the water turn the colour of the peach skin, still find at the bottom of trunks in another century's attic the small true records of the ones who carried everything. Some things don't change. The mornings don't change. The care doesn't change. The keeping doesn't change. So let it come now. Let sleep take you the way the tide takes a small boat off a falling beach. No effort, no decision, just lifted and turned and carried. Let the day set itself down somewhere out of reach, the way you set down the tray at last, both hands done. Let the bells go quiet in your body. Let the list dissolve. Let the lanterns go out one line at a time, gold, then coral, then red, then the soft dark. And the dark is not empty. The dark is the garden after, and the sea is still in it, folding and unfolding. Let your hands be still. They have done enough, and it was seen. Someone was there and wrote it down, and it was seen. Let your thoughts slow and soften and finally stop, like the clocks in the far rooms, one by one. No harm done. Someone will wind them in June. You've earned this rest, not as a kindness, as wages. Take it. The slate says still here. The sea says so too. The book is safe at the bottom of the trunk, and everything true is in pencil, and the morning is far, far away on the other side of the water. And dream, if you dream at all, of a long lawn above the Atlantic, lit gold from end to end, and every hand that lit it resting now, and the whole night sky over Newport coming down slow and soft and certain, like a sheet drawn gently over the summer by someone who has done it many times and loves the house and will be there in the morning. Good night.